Welcome to the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship, round 5 here tonight at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Alongside me tonight, Brad Klink. Behind the camera is Scotty Newton. Welcome to you both.
Yeah, hi Daniel. Should be a interesting race. This track can be pretty challenging. Some drivers don't like it, so it might be why we have a little bit smaller participation tonight. But there are some that do quite enjoy it. So yeah, we'll see what eventuates.
Yeah, definitely. It is a smaller field than what we're traditionally seen in the championship tonight. Only 20 cars, one Daytona prototype in the hands of Ryan Miller, still going around. We've got a good mix though in both GT3 and GTE tonight, and guys are just working through the final portion of qualifying here. And yeah, it should be pretty good to go. Brad, you had a run out here on Sunday night with the Aussie Mix and Fix series. How did you find the course in that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favourite track, but there are some sections I do enjoy to drive. The first sector is a real good challenge, but it doesn't present too many like genuine overtaking opportunities. But one thing it can shake up a race is because it is so hard, and with the anti-cut curbs there being so high, if anyone makes a mistake, quite often they lose that rhythm through that section, and that's how some overtakes can happen in that first part of the lap. But yeah, the danger is always if when you're in a close battle here, you've got several corners which are really late apex to sort of you compromise the entry onto those to get a good run onto the straight down the back section of the course and onto the main straight as well. So that's always a bit dangerous because you're kind of leaving the door what appears to be open. So sometimes you'll have people sort of take a lunge down the inside there. So it's something to be aware of as a driver around here too.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you say, watching everyone funnel down through the S's through the first sector, pretty much going to be key to getting through here. Obviously, I think braking, especially down through turn one, with that rise that you come up through, will really aid these guys going in for a late move early on. Are there any cars that you think could be heavily favoured here?
It's hard to say. I mean, the AMF series we run a fixed setup. They are pretty closely matched with the BOP this season, but the BMW did seem quite strong. So yeah, I would expect them to do quite well in the GT class. GT3 side of things, it should be pretty close. But I'm just looking at the entries. We may only have Mercedes tonight, so it doesn't look like we've got any Audis. So it should be a straight fight between the GT3 guys. But yeah, the BMW should be strong in GT, and the Ford has really benefited from the adjustments that iRacing have done this season. So it's pretty mega in a straight line and pretty good on fuel too. So wouldn't be surprised if that does quite look good. And we do have a couple of Fords in the field tonight too, which is good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those not really familiar with the circuit, it is 4.5 kilometres long. Quite a good bit of elevation change, as we mentioned earlier, 170 metres up into turn one. Weather conditions tonight are actually looking pretty good out at the moment, 18 degrees, 60% humidity, and all in all, pretty good running out there. We're seeing some times starting to come in qualifying at the moment. Ryan Nowak out the front at the moment on a 158.7. He's currently leading the way. Second place, Evan Alberg on a 2-minute flat in the Ford there. So as you say, good to see that Ford up in the top end. We've got about a minute to go here in qualifying at the moment. Current leader in the GT3 class, Clint Smith. He set a 2-minute 1.74 for his lap, and in third at the moment, we just got up on screen Jason Muscat. He's come across the line in a 203.9. So the guys in GT3 relatively close together. We have got a couple of series regulars still out there again. Looks like Alan Day in the Mercedes back out, currently sitting in third in class at the moment, and looks like everyone has pretty much finished setting their lap, so we'll just wait a moment and we'll pull up the grid for the start of this one.
Yeah, looks like we've got a AMF regular Martin Crisp in the BMW and GTE there as well. Yeah, he's lined up 5th from the looks of it. So
yeah, it hasn't set a bad time either. 2 minute 0.86, so pretty competitive time when you consider that from second down through to 5th at the moment, there's less than 0.8 of a second cut. While we wait for all the cars to join the grid, we'll quickly run through the field and give you a look at where all the drivers are standing. So on pole in the Seoul Daytona prototype tonight will be Ryan Miller. Starting first in class for GTE, we've got Juan Nosek. Alongside him will be Loic Gurin. Evan Leiberg in third, with Zen Bishop starting out of fourth. Martin Crisp in fifth. Madsen McHale in sixth. Jason Muscat starting out of 7, Daniel Rodrigo in 8th position tonight. And we've got Ty Flatland starting in 9th position. Duarte Azario will be starting out of the 10th. And Scott McFarlane will round out the GTE field in 11th. Starting on pole in the GT3 class will be led by Clint Smith. Yoshim Jilgren will be starting in 2nd, Alan Day out of 3rd, Bradley Hadswell in 4th tonight, Chris Taylor out of 5th, Martin Carischio in 6th position, Marinho Pasaka in 7th, and Zach Livengood will be starting out of 8th position. It will be a short start for this pace lap, guys starting on the back of the back straight at the moment, and should be able to get some pretty good lap times. We will see one pit stop from all classes tonight as well, which will spice up that action a little bit more. What are your thoughts, Brad, on when the guys are likely to come in? We know traditionally they come in around that 25-minute mark. Do you think there'll be anyone trying to extend that range a little bit further tonight?
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Ford drivers extend that a bit. But tyre wear here is quite high. Generally, we don't see people take tyres in these races, but if someone gets out of position early on, they might go for an early stop and take tyres and then see what they can do later in the race. Because with 20 corners here, you're really asking a lot of the tyres. The track temp's not too high though, so it's unlikely. But yeah, if someone gets out of position, they might take that gamble.
And tyres probably not a bad option, as you say. It's pretty high on the circuit. A couple of cars starting out of the lane as well. We've got Scott McFarlane and Ryan Miller, the Daytona prototype, not actually taking to the grid at this point, which is a little bit strange to see. Not sure what's led to that one, but looks like we're starting to get some good separation between the GTE and GT3, as we can see. Is that one of the cars? I think it's Clint Smith just cycling through a little bit out of frame there, but good split between these two now.
Yeah, just rolling through, trying to get their strategies for the start. They're probably thinking about turn 1 because there's a lot of lines that can be taken there. So it'd be interesting to see how the drivers attack that one. And looks like they've got a little bit of forming up to do here. A little bit messy, but starting to get into 2x2 now.
And the guys just working their way down through turn 19. We'll see the pace car pull away here momentarily, and on cue it drops off to the lane. So the field now in control of Jan Nosek, and we'll watch to see him take this final corner and see how the field get away, and no doubt we'll see some 3 wide actions. The guys are starting to spread out a little bit already in the back of the grid, and one getting a fantastic jump off the line.
Yeah, we can see them run up the hill here. Oh, we've got a Porsche. Oh, he's lost on the rears, right on the apex. Unfortunately, someone else has got tangled there. And they've just managed to gather it up for the GT3 field and make their way through turn 1.
Yeah, you can to see him get away. Clint Smith would have been wondering which way he would have needed to go there, closing up on the back of that. So those two cars involved were Lyman Good and Taylor. It was like Taylor going around under brakes there, as you say, up into turn one. So those guys have dropped quite a way back now to the start of the GTE field. It looks like also our Daytona prototype in the hands of Ryan Miller and Scott McFarlane in the other Porsche GTE have also got underway out of pit lane, so everyone out on track at the moment. A little surprised to see Ryan actually having started from the lane, but he's already closing up on a little bit of traffic.
Yeah, being the only prototype out there, maybe he thought it might make things a little more interesting for him to start from the back, who knows. But maybe should be interesting to see him make his way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it'll take him long to go. Just keeping an eye on him. He's working his way down through turn 11 at the moment, so just about to drop onto that long back straight. And we should see that car really extend. But out front, Johan Nosek really starting to work well out the front. Got himself an 8/10 gap over Lorik Gurin, and really starting to get on with it in the Ferrari there at the moment. So we saw last time out, Ferrari's quite good in the AMF, especially in the late half of the race. And proving to be pretty good out the front at the moment. Sitting in third is Evan Alberg, and he's dropped off a little bit. Surprised with the Ford, given how quick it has been at some other circuits this season. He's fighting himself a bit over 2/10 of a second, or 2 seconds, sorry, down behind race leader as they cross the line for the first time.
Yeah, it's some pretty serious pace being set there at the start too, so interesting to see if they just try and get a bit of a gap and then sort of lift off a little bit, try and conserve tyres a bit. So we've got Chris just trying to close up on Leiberg here, Ford versus BMW. So it's always good to see the different makes battling, so you can sort of see different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, definitely. I think the BMW being that front engine car came on really strong. We saw that in AMF very strong early on in the race. If you got into a bit of a battle, I think, with that extra weight over the front end, you did see it start to struggle on tyres. So for a car that could potentially take tyres tonight, certainly look for the BMW to possibly take that opportunity to do it. He is falling a little bit behind at the moment. The gap between himself and Leiberg still sitting pretty comfortably about a second. And our race leaders up front now extending their gap ever further. Nosek, has got himself now a 2-second lead over Ornick, and really starting to pull away at the front of the field. Likewise, Clint Smith in that GTE field. He's already got past a couple of GTE cars. He's not too far behind the car of Hudson McHale, and see just behind him he's got Joachim Lugren just behind there in that Mercedes. So Mercedes still very dominant in this class.
Yeah, the Mercedes tends to ride the curves a little bit more friendly than the other GT3 cars from my experience, and this track having a lot of turns and those anti-cuts to be very precise with, it's probably not a bad choice.
Yeah, definitely that Mercedes, one of probably the strongest cars out in field. It looks like we've also got a little bit of a battle further down in the order with Bradley Hadwell and Matthew Curzio. Those guys only separated by a couple of tenths. We've got that battle up on screen at the moment. And it's Ty Flatland in the Porsche GTE. So that car a long way down and out of sequence at the moment. But great to see Bradley going on. It looks like Ty's actually gone off the circuit there, and just missing his brake marker in turn one.
Yeah, I think he might have been involved in that little melee at the start too, so sort of out of position. He's probably trying, now he's back in the GT3 traffic, he's probably just finding it hard to get into rhythm. And this track is one that is quite hard to sort of settle into the rhythm, because it's the way it flows is sort of broken up into three sections that have very different characters, so it's hard to get consistent laps here, I find.
Absolutely. We just got up here Jason Muskrat being worked on by Hudson McHale, and McHale actually getting passed down the back straight in that Porsche there He got a lot of top end speed on board there, and that toe certainly helped him out, but not too far behind this little group as well. We've seen slowly working his way into the frame there is Clint Smith, car plus leader in that GT3 field, up 5 spots from where he started, so really getting on with it, and he's doing a fantastic job. We saw him do that earlier in the season. I think it was Road America, where he drove basically up through the middle of the grid as well, and Clint's got a fantastic looking setup on that car at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage of the race, I mean, Lundgren's only about sort of 3.5 seconds back, so you can't afford to just sort of relax and sit behind the GTE cars and let them scrap it out. He needs to keep pushing on, try and build up a bit more of a gap, because it is easy to make a mistake here, and a little bit more breathing room would make him feel more comfortable.
Absolutely, we see Clint there with a flash of the lights on the back of Jason Muskrat, letting him know that he's still trying to get through. It looks like Bishop has got that Porsche settled down a little bit more after his lose that we saw in turn 1 on the opening lap, and he finds himself back down there in the 9th position overall. But Muskrat probably going to have a little bit more advantage through the S's, although having said that, watching Clint just close up just a touch, and that whole S's line is basically one run through that section. Daniel Rodriguez also likewise coming under a little bit of pressure from Hudson McHale in the Porsches. The guys working their way down through turn 9 now, through the little kink in 10, and on the run down into that tight hairpin of turn 11.
Yeah, McHale kind of pinched the line a little bit through 8 and 9 there, which gave him a bad run through 10 and down into 11. Now you really need to hug the curb through 8 to get open the corner through 9 and 10 over the crest to get closer to the car in 11 and to hopefully give you the run along here. He has still been able to close up a bit here. He looks like he's going to try the move.
A very decisive move down into turn 12 there. Great job from McHale there, getting a move done. Also looks like Clint Smith was also able to get past Jason Muskrat in that Porsche. He actually got through turn 11. We didn't get that up on camera, but Clint's not letting these guys go. Currently sitting in the 7th position outright and pushing on. He's got himself a fantastic gap at the moment of about 3 to 4 seconds over Lundgren behind him in 2nd position, so still pressing on quite hard, but he finds himself in a bit of a battle of Porsches at the moment and pressing on. But he has got Zen Bishop looking for a move there, a little bit of damage on his car on that rear wing, but Zen should have the pace down the long back straight here.
Yeah, you can see Clint just giving another flash of the lights there. He's pretty keen to keep pressing forward. He's taking the inside line. That was a nice move, and there's Bishop there trying to follow him through. So he's just managed to get through on Rodrigo heading into the S's there. That was good awareness and good seizing that opportunity, seeing Clint take the move to the inside and following him through.
Yeah, that was a smart move, and I think it was always on the card because it looked like Bishop was going to try and stick it down the inside of Clint as well into turn 1, so keeping the follow on there. But just to give you an idea of lap times around here at the moment, Clint Smith last time by was a 2:03.2, and the guys around him also in the 2:03 range as well. So Clint's certainly taking it to the guys up towards the front. Once you get up towards Martin Crisp in that BMW, you drop back into the 2:01. So the guys further up the field really starting to get on with the pace, and that little bit of extra experience that Martin would have had from Sunday certainly paying well. But we see Zen Bishop trying to go down the inside. He should get this move done reasonably easy into turn 12, and Clint not really wanting to fight with it and doesn't need to. He knows he's got the pace in that car at the moment.
Yeah, just looking at the timing, see Ryan Miller in the DP hasn't made as much progress as I thought he might. He's currently 15th. He's been able to get through a few of the GT3 and a couple of the GT guys that have struck trouble. But the lap time difference, I can see he's got a bit of damage on the front there, so that may be hampering his progress. That car being quite aero dependent, he'll be probably suffering quite a bit of understeer with that damage, and the straight line speed won't be helped by that either.
No, and I did actually catch a glimpse of an off track for him last time by, but it looks like that car very awkward on the setup there. It's twitching a lot in the rear end as we watch him go through turn 19 now, and you can see him struggling to keep the rear end under that car, so that's probably not helped with that additional damage on the front. But as you say, the pace differential in that car certainly not what we'd expect to see and have seen in previous races. So he's doing it tough out there tonight, but great to see that he's still pressing on with that car. And just looking to see if we've got any other battles up on screen at the moment. Looks like Jason Muskrat's still working, actually getting worked on at the moment by Joachim Logren in the second position Mercedes as well. So those two only a couple of 7/10 of a second at the moment, so not much between them. And just up front we've got Daniel Rodriguez as well. So 3 cars with a bit over a second and a half between each other, all starting to close up again.
Yeah, so we're approaching about quarter race distance. One thing to probably keep in mind here is the incident limit. Off tracks here are quite easy to rack up. We have seen quite a few drivers running wide on the exits, which is where you can easily get off tracks in several places around this circuit, this turn being one. And we see a lock up there from it's Rodrigo, was it? He's managed to hang on to the position, but wow, that's closed Lundgren right up onto the back as well.
Yeah, that was a little unforced error there from Rodrigo, and you see him grabbing the brake again on the entry to turn 16, which is very easy to do with that double right-hander, or left-hander, sorry. And he's finding it a little bit tough, but that really did Constantino that field up. And for any of the viewers watching out there tonight who may not really be able to get an idea of when the guys are going on the off-tracks, if you do see the little red flash on the number panel on the left of screen, that will give you a quick indication that those drivers have either been involved in an incident or an off-track there. Clint Smith setting his personal best last time by a 2:02.276. That's a fantastic lap in that car, and continue to extend his gap even further. But we'll keep an eye on this little fight here with the 3 cars of Rodriguez, Muskrat and Flatland. They are the closest battle on field at the moment.
Yeah, that was a little bit hairy into turn 1 there. Looked like Muscat was locked up and very nearly got into one of the other cars there. So the guys are pushing. A couple of them had quite a slow lap last lap, so they're just trying to get back into their rhythm and push forward a bit. Probably pretty keen to stay in front of the GT3 car behind there. But yeah, the lap time difference between the GTE and GT3 here, it's not quite as dramatic as what I thought it would be, with it being quite a long lap. But the GT3 cars are pretty tidy in a straight line, so the GTE aren't able to pull away too much on these straights.
Yeah, well, we keep an eye on Muscat. It looks like he's slowing down quite a long way, and that's actually released Logren to go through in that Mercedes, so he will be pushing on further up. And there's another lock up for Rodriguez, and Flatland going around the outside there, gets that position move done, finds himself now up in the 8th position.
Yeah, it's not the tidiest of battles that we're seeing here, with little errors here and there, but it is making it interesting. Rodrigo with that lock up there? He almost parked it on the apex to avoid the car in front. So, but you can see Tio's been able to extend that quite a lot after that mistake from Rodrigo. It's 1.5 seconds now, so he'll just try and get his head down and extend that gap a little bit, get into clean air and get some consistent laps happening. So up into 5th with Mikhail. Bishop's still within a second behind him. Oh, and we've just put the curse on him by cutting to him.
Yeah, not sure what's happened there. He just lost the whole back end of it. It seemed really weird. We'll jump to a replay on that now. He was coming down out of turn 1 down into turn 2. The whole back end just stepped away.
Yeah, it's just on that change of direction. He's just lost the rear. So it can be easily done through there. Sometimes if the car's not feeling too balanced, what I like to do is just a little bit of left foot brake, just a slight little dabble the brake on the change of direction to help the nose dip down, particularly on the Porsche with it being light on the front end. Sometimes that can help the change of direction.
Yeah, definitely. That certainly plays a lot of advantage actually in a lot of these cars, especially the likes of the Ford and the Ferrari. Being able to pin that nose a little further into the ground certainly helps. But that spin will hurt Mikhail. It's dropped him now down behind Flatland, Smith, and Bishop. So that's dropped him about 4 spots now as a result of that. But he should be able to get on. He doesn't have any damage. Was able to pull it up just before it got onto the wall there, and should be able to continue on in the race. But as we now approach the 16-minute mark, we'll quickly jump through the leaderboard and just catch up on where our race positions are at. So Juan Nosek out front in the Ferrari got himself a nice 8.6 second gap over Luke Gurin in another Ferrari as well, who in turn has himself a 3.7 second advantage over Evan Leiberg in the Ford, and that's the top 3 there. In our GTE class, in 4th position, Martin Crisp for the Pure Racing Team, Performance Racing, I think it is, one of the AMF regulars there in 4th position. 5th is Zen Bishop, who we saw just avoiding that spin as well. Actually, sorry, Pulse Racing Team for Martin Crisp. In the first in GTE class, we've got Clint Smith doing a standout job once again. Finds himself in the 6th overall and has himself quite a handy lead, it must be said, over 2nd place. Lachlan Logren, who we saw working his way past a couple of the slower GTE cars. Pretty big gap between these guys at the moment of around 8 seconds. On track at the moment, 3rd in class, we haven't mentioned him much tonight at all, is Alan Day in the Team Ebert car. Great to see Alan out there, and another strong result for him down in 13th and in 3rd and 12th outright. So he's currently working his way down towards turn number 11 at the moment. Just behind him is our one and only Daytona prototype in the hands of Ryan Miller. Started from the pit lane and currently finds himself in the 13th spot outright, and a lot of work to do to continue climbing up, but looks like he's finding a little bit more pace back in that car now, which is great to see.
Yeah, just while we were running through that, I just saw Scott McFarlane went through the lane, but his stationary time was only 6 seconds, so it may not have had to take on a lot of fuel to get to the end of this one, but doesn't usually the stops are a bit longer than that, so it'd be interesting to see sort of what he does from here, because it seems like quite a small time for any substantial damage to be repaired. So we'll have to keep an eye, see if he makes any progress. He's down in 20th after that stop.
Yeah, that's not really enough time either to really get a lot of fuel on board to get the car home. So you could potentially see him coming back down the lane again. Looks like Ryan Miller will get that move done finally on Alan Day. We watched that for quite a little while there. And not sure with Ryan, doesn't really seem to have the confidence in that car at the moment. And a little further ahead of those guys, we've got Daniel Rodriguez holding off a fast charging Lachlan Logren in that Mercedes in 2nd position. So Logren doing a great job, finds himself up 4 spots, just sitting on the P10 at the moment. And just behind him, we've got Jason Muskrat as well in that Ferrari. So these 3 haven't really been separated by too much at the moment on track, and great to see a good balance of cars, both the Ferrari, Porsche and Mercedes there.
Yeah, Lundgren's still doing you can see Rodrigo again with the troubles under braking, so I'm not sure if that's a bias issue or he just needs to adjust his markers a little bit. The Porsche can be a little bit tricky under brakes. Sometimes you do have to run a bit more rear bias on that car compared to others. You see Lundgren was able to make a move there.
Yeah, it looks like he caught the brake just on the initial turn in, but really trying to push the crisscross as we see him actually drop down a position now behind Logren, so Logren promotes himself up into the 9th, and Rodriguez drops himself down to the 10th spot. But these two still pushing on. I wouldn't mind betting that we will see another change of position on the run-up to turn.
Yeah, see, the GTE car in Rodriguez's hands does look to be a bit more confident through the last sector of the race, last sector of the track, so he's been able to close up again here. If he gets a good exit, this should be a pretty easy pass into or before turn 1. But if they keep changing positions like this, obviously they're not really optimizing what each car can do lap time wise, so it could hamper their position towards the end of the race if they keep scrapping like this. Remember that these guys aren't in the same class either, so it's really just about bragging rights at the moment between these two.
Yeah, definitely, that's it. And while we were watching this little scrap unfold, you can just see in the rear view there, we've got the DPI Millet coming through. We also had Teo Flatland come in for his stop as well. That was another quick stop, 8.7 seconds in the Porsche there. So we'll jump on board here with Rodriguez and we'll watch the rest of this lap unfold and get a great bird's eye perspective of how these guys scrap through this last portion of the circuit.
And we see Rodrigo come into the lane there. You can see from the onboard he's not really confident with the front end of that car. Was having quite a bit of understeer issues when he's following the prototype there, so that could be part of his issues. And into 11, we again saw him sort of run wide on the exit, sort of went a bit deep into that corner, which we've seen a couple of times, so could be set up. Something about the front end that he's not liking. And if he's, because I drive the Porsche myself, I find when you are tucked up on another car, it is one of the cars that's affected by that a little bit more, with the front end being a bit lighter with the weight balance on that car, so it is difficult to follow another car.
Yeah, that is one of the great characteristics of that Porsche. It certainly is a real driver's car, and there's while in this championship you can definitely make a lot of changes being the open setup. There's certainly a few little nuances that you can carry across even into a fixed setup feel for it, but yeah, certainly agree with you that it does get a little bit lively under brakes. And if anything, watching the way Rodrigo was going there, potentially even maybe just overdriving the car just a little into those deeper corners there of turn 11 and 12, which really unsettled him. Up on screen now, we've got Alain Day finding himself in a pretty comfortable third position, it must be said. He's got himself a 4-second gap there to Muscat out in front in the Ferrari GTE, but Alain's put in some pretty good lap times. Consistency in the car, not too bad at all. His last lap was a 2:04.55, and that was only 4/10 slower than his outright best today, and that car seemed to be working pretty well.
Yeah, we've obviously seen Alain in many of the IMSA races. He's a regular, and always, from what I've seen, been able to put in just consistent laps. Just sort of finds a lap time or a rhythm that he's comfortable with, and just seems to be able to just keep hitting those numbers, which is good to see. He's coming into the lane for his stop now.
Yeah, well, we were for Alain to jump in there. We've also got Clint Smith, and Zen Bishop fighting it out for the 5th and 6th. There's also another little scrap a bit further down in field we'll need to keep an eye on, with Matthew Cozier as well on the back of Bradley Hadwell, so we'll keep an eye on that fight also. But a couple little fights starting to heat up now as the guys look to potentially be starting to make their run down pit lane.
So, yeah, we just got the message coming through. Apparently Rodrigo, he made an error with that pit entry or something. He went down the wrong part of the lane. So he might have overshot his box or something. I'm not sure, I didn't catch that on screen. So his stop might have been quite a bit longer than it needed to be.
Yeah, I think he might have actually done the drive-through, and he's now back in for a secondary stop. So that time is still ticking on, down about 20 seconds at the moment, stationary for himself. We've got a couple of other cars in the lane with Bradley Hadwell and Mariano Pisaka down the lane as well in the GTE class likewise. But looks like everyone else trying to hang out there as long as possible. We are 26 minutes into the race, so less than 20 to go to the back end, and I think in the not too distant future we will see stops start to really heat up. But we do know with a few of these cars, especially the likes of the Ford, as we see Clint Smith jump into the lane for his stop, that Ford we have seen, especially mid-Ohio, we're a little bit shorter circuit obviously than what we've got tonight at COTA, but in the right hands that car can go quite a long way in without requiring a stop. I think the best we've seen at the moment is about 38 minutes.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how far he decides to try and run it. It's been pretty consistent with his lap times. You can see there that really late entry, really late turning for the apex of that corner to try and straighten the car up, get the run down here. So when you're by yourself, that's the preferred line. But yeah, when you're in the battle, sometimes it can leave you vulnerable to someone that thinks you're leaving the door open. Just those late apex corners can make some awkward exchanges during a race sometimes.
Well, that's one of the great challenges here at COTA. It's a track that really does open up for multiple line opportunities. As you say, you got turn 1, the run into turn 11 that you just mentioned there. Turn 12 is another big one. And then even that crisscross section through turn 17, 18, the double right-handers through towards the back of the track. There's multiple lines that all these guys can take. And I think from testing that I've done previously here, the hardest point I've always found to get a good line and run through, as you say, at turn 11, trying to take that wide apex, just a little bit hard sometimes in these cars to get it right.
Yeah, the track's quite flat there, so it's can be hard to spot that apex on the inside because it's such a wide part of track there. And we see who was that with the error there? It's another Ford driver. I think he's going a lap down though.
Yeah, it was Duarte Arizado going quite wide in through turn 1, locking up, and he is a lap down at the moment, sitting in the 14th position. Has come in for his stop already, so he should be good to go for the remainder of the night, but certainly a long way down on where he'd ideally like.
Oh, and that was very close. We had a spinner there. That's Luke Gurin. So it's through that tail section. Yeah, he's. Oh, yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah, and Gurin there was our second place car for the majority of this run tonight. So a little awkward to find himself in some contact there. He should be able to get away with it reasonably well. Does still need to come down the lane for his stop. We've got a few more guys also jumping in. Mikhail Lugren and Muskrat likewise down for their stops. But that was a little bit of a clumsy accident there, and hopefully Gurin should be able to get back underway pretty quickly.
Yeah, it looked like he went offline, perhaps trying to set up the pass on the traffic there, but once you go offline in that section, it's really hard to sort of piece all those corners together. There is only real one optimum line through there, so it looked like he lost the rears, and yeah, the GT3 car just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time there.
Which is certainly an easy accident to have, especially as that complex really being one line. Basically from the moment you turn into turn 2 and funnel through 3 and then out of turn 10 there, it's a pretty tight sequence of corners and only really one room for a line to get through there. But that, as a result, has now put him down back into third position behind Evan Olberg, and the gap to the leader at the moment is 38 seconds.
So with this track being a little hard on tyres, that's one thing I have found here is when you do get offline, the effect of the clean versus dirty line is quite prominent here. You really feel the loss of grip for the first few corners after you've been offline, and that actually caught me out a couple of times on Sunday night's race where I had to avoid some cars and go offline, and then the next hard braking area I sort of didn't take that into account and sort of locked the rears and had a half spin. So it's it's very easy for that to happen, like we just saw.
Yeah, it looks like we also got a couple of retirements tonight. Ryan Miller in that Daytona prototype unfortunately has called it an end to his night, and likewise Eduardo Azaro, who we saw before in that Ford going on and off track there, called it a done. We drop back here to the battle for 6th and 7th. Ty Flatland in the Porsche working up on the back of Hudson McHale in another Porsche, and these two setting some pretty good lap times at the moment. Looks like Hudson was just out of the pit on that last time by, and he's really going to have to work hard if he wants to retain that 6th position.
Yeah, you can see a little bit different lines been. And he's gone around, lost the rear there. So that was a pretty good demonstration of that being offline there. It only takes about half a car width to a car width, and you're on the dirty line through that section. And I just lost the rears. So, and that was McHale there, so Flatland was able to just breeze through, luckily, and missed that. And McHale's dropped 10 seconds behind him now, so it's pretty much gifted that position back to Flatland.
Yeah, that's the second time we've seen McHale go around in that car in that section of corners as well. So not the best for him, but he should be able to get underway and not have any damage on that car. Just up ahead of these guys here as Flatland is working his way through. We've got Clint Smith now. Still finds himself in the 6th position at the moment, first in class in the GT3 field. And what can you say? Hasn't really put a foot wrong tonight. Last time by 7/10 different to his outright best, but that car looking exceptionally good, and he has also come down the lane for his one and only stop tonight.
Yeah, once he got away to that sort of 3-4 second gap, he's just consistently built it since then. So not much of a challenge for him. He did keep himself quite entertained earlier in the race, making his way through the tail end of the GTE traffic. So yeah, no mean feat to be sitting in P6 overall in amongst the GTE field. So yeah, very solid drive from Clint, but we've kind of become accustomed to seeing that from him on the other races this season.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, he's continuing on a fantastic run there. Likewise, Jan Nelsak, currently working his way down through turn 20 at the moment, so we'll come across the line and close off lap 18 or 17, so starts lap 18, and he's got himself a fairly comfortable lead. And just looking at where he is on reference, dropping into turn 1, second place at the moment. Leiberg only working his way up into turn 20, so final corner of the track, and actually jumping into the lane for his respective stops. So Nossak really starting to get a way in this row, and maybe look for him actually to come down the lane next time by. He's only one of 2 cars still yet to stop, the other being Zen Bishop in that multicoloured Porsche.
So yeah, nearly 35 minutes in, so we wouldn't expect them to run too much longer with the limited fuel capacity for these events. A little bit surprised to see the Ford in before the Ferrari, but he might have just been using a bit more. Jan's been out in front pretty unchallenged once he got away, so he's probably been able to just sort of be pretty conservative with the fuel, be able to run this Ferrari a bit longer than we may have otherwise seen.
Well, definitely, and looking at the lap consistency that he's had as well, he's not really strayed too far away from a 2-minute lap, as you can see it up on screen here at the moment. The only difference being lap 13 at 2:02.4, but other than that, he's been relatively consistent to the mid to low 2-minute range, and to have extended a lead as much as he has without a pit stop has been fantastic. He's got a little bit of lap traffic just ahead in the form of Muskrat there in the Ferrari, so at the moment lapped all the way up to 10th outright in class, so certainly pushing on well, but we will keep an eye out momentarily for that one and only stop that he will need to make, and that looks to be now.
Yeah, it's probably a wise move with coming up on those cars up ahead too, so you can just kind of avoid any confrontation with them and make the stop, get back out into a rhythm.
Yeah, while we watch him come in for his spot, we've got Isikran back up on screen as well, working his way back after that spin earlier on, a couple of laps ago. He's got himself a 2.5 second gap behind Zen Bishop, but Zen does still need to come down the lane for his stop as well, so we will look for a pass and spot there. Nossak back out of the lane and return to the basically reclaim the lead of this race. He's got himself a great long lead as he works his way through turn 1, our second in class, just entering turn 20, so really no major impact there, and Zen Bishop diving into the lane for his stop.
So, yeah, I think Nossak's been the only driver to be able to duck down under the 2 minutes mark during this race with a best lap of 1:59.25. So it's that's some pretty solid pace, and as we saw there, he's not when he's in clean air away from traffic, he's been able to sort of replicate that lap pretty closely.
Yeah, that's a great mark of a good race, of being able to hit those marks consistently and push on, and he's doing a fantastic run. And if you just turn your attention top of the screen, we just had the quickest times from all 3 classes just up there, and like I say, only about 4 seconds overall between the top GTE GT3 car. A little bit of lap traffic just clearing the way of Gurren there. That was Loving Good, just stepping aside and letting him continue on there. So great sportsmanship being shown by a few of the back markers as well.
So yeah, it doesn't look like we've got any really close battles at the moment, unfortunately, but we're 38 minutes in and 7 minutes remaining. Most of the cars have sort of settled down into their rhythm, just trying to get the cars home. Just looking at the movers, obviously Clint has been probably the standout as far in that regard. He's up 7 positions from where he started. But we do have Matthew Crozier in the GT3 field. He's been able to make his way through quite a bit as well. He's made 6 positions overall and a couple positions in class. So it's been a good drive from him too.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of great runs here. Likewise, Logren up 5 spots as well, so probably the 3 biggest movers so far. Up on screen, we've got Jason Muskrat, about a second behind Logren at the moment, so still trying to work his way, but that GT3 really is probably getting a bit of an advantage at the moment with the aid of the ABS into the braking zones, able to go in a lot harder and deeper than what we can see with the GTEs, and that's probably, if anything, aiding him retaining this top 10 position.
Yeah, several very hard braking zones on this track, so the ABS, it's probably able to pick up a tenth or two in each of the really big braking zones just from having that. So that does help minimise the lap time difference between the 2 classes here on this track. But you can see this last sector here, this is where the GTE car should be able to close up a bit. You see Musket, so he's able to just get it down to a few car lengths. It's probably not close enough to be able to make a move into 1. But he might be able to set something up if he can stick behind him through the first sector and try and think about it early in the lap here to set something up ready for 11 or the exit of 11 down to 12. So it's one of those tracks where you have to sort of start thinking about your moves quite some way in advance, because unless the driver in front makes a mistake through this first sector here, it's next to impossible to make a move through this section they're going through here now.
Yeah, exactly right. It looks like Muskrat run a little wide into turn 1 there, which ultimately didn't help him. But just as he went through that wide shot, watching him come down through the S's there, he looked to be struggling just a little bit to get the nose turned in on the apex there, probably missing it by a good 1.5 feet. But hasn't dropped him too far down. He's still just outside that 1 second range at the moment as they work their way down into the brake zone, turn 11, a little bit wide as well. And pushing on, but yes, maybe dropping off just a touch now in outright pace, even though, that being said, he was a lap quicker last time by 0.2 of a second, but ultimately dropping off down in through the twisty section.
Yeah, so we're going to see, despite the tyre wear being quite high here, we've got Crozier and Hudswell in the GT3 field, 4th and 5th in those classes. In that class, they've just actually done PBs the last lap. So the GT3 cars, with the aid of the ABS, probably finding that the tyre wear is not too bad, and as the fuel comes off, they've been able to sort of put in some PBs. So it's good to see that they're still pushing on, just trying to maintain their rhythm, improve the times as it comes down towards the tail end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. They are pushing on very hard, and good to see that. They are still, Crozier sitting in the 4th outright, so not too far down at the moment. Got himself a fairly big gap between himself and Alan Day, but that little bit of damage might be ultimately hurting him just a touch.
And down in P6 GT3, looks like we've actually got a couple of cars that have come quite close together here now. We've got Taylor on the back of Pascua, and just not sure. Might be interesting to see the difference in the lap times over the last few laps if we can, because I'm not sure where that came from. That interval just suddenly appeared to be quite close. So you can see he's working away on the back here.
Yeah, well, looking at the lap times last time by, it looks like Taylor, Pescara had a slower lap, about 4 seconds slower than what we saw from Chris Taylor there, which has really closed that gap. And we now got to run down into turn 12, and looks like this will be an easy move done for Taylor there. Down the inside, gets that stopped nice and easy. There's also a Porsche down in the background. I think that's one of, I think that's Hudson McHale coming up the back of this group as well. So look for them to get involved. But yeah, Taylor pushing on very, very well now.
So yeah, it looks like Taylor must have gone for a later stop, and he's just been able to work his way forward and gradually close up on Pascua there. And we can see Mikhail's been able to make his way through, so he's going to work his way back up onto the back of Taylor here too. So very different lines there into one. Oh, Mikhail catches the inside curb up on 2 wheels briefly. And we did see a couple of cars doing that on Sunday night in the AMF race too. It's a little risky, but sometimes you want to sort of pinch the car down onto the inside there to straighten it up as early as possible. And if you cut it a little bit too fine, as we see through these anti-cut curbs, it's easy to get up on 2 wheels. And Mikhail sort of able to get through pretty easy there. Taylor didn't want to fight that, made it pretty easy for him.
Yeah, probably a bit of a smart move there, and that will release him. This will be the final lap also by the looks, and our race leader, Wayne Nossick, working his way down through the S's at the moment. This might be a great time. We might jump on board here and watch this final lap with the race leader to see how he completes it, but that Ferrari has been absolutely unstoppable tonight.
yeah, to open up a 25-second gap in a 45-minute race, that's that's pretty impressive. You don't see it too often. And he does have some drivers of similar I rating in the field as well, so it's not like the strength of field was vastly different from his rating. So yeah, just very, very consistent driving. You can see he's still being able to get the car right down to the apex there, using all the track on the exit, getting across to the left here. So yeah, the setup he has on this Ferrari looks quite tidy on the front end. Even late in the race here, it seems to be able to get the car pinned down, put it to where he wants. So he takes the double apex approach there. It's a nice tight line. Yeah, again, making the apex there on the sort of reverse camber corner, which is quite difficult to do. And completes another very tidy lap to close out the race and take the victory.
Yeah, it's an extremely strong win there by Jan Nosek, and well done to him in second place. And up on screen at the moment, we've got Evan Leiberg in the Ford. It's a great run for the Ford, car that doesn't get enough love this day and age in the service, and great to see it sitting up in second position. It's a well-deserved run for him there, and he's just coming across the line now. Third position and working his way through turn 20 is Lorik Gurin. We saw him having that issue early on, and great recovery for him to come back into the third spot. Clint Smith doing a great run now, sitting in first position, seventh outright, working his way through the mid corner of the back of the course here on the run down into turn 15 and 16, and really hasn't been challenged too much at all tonight. He once he was able to extend that lead, really got on with it.
Yeah, he wasn't backwards in coming forward early in the race with the GTE cars, and I think that really solidified the result for him. He was able to get into the tail end of GTE, make his way past a couple of those cars quite quickly, and that really put a buffer between him and Lundgren, and set him up for a great result and really consistent driving to be able to see it through to the finish. You see a bit of a celebration as he crosses the line there.
And second, working his way through the back portion of the race here, we've got Joachim Jogeren in the other Mercedes, holding off Jason Muskrat for 8th and 9th outrights, and Joachim with a great run to take that second position in class, and well deserved win to him. Alain Day crossed the line in third as well. We didn't get to see that on camera. He was actually past a lap prior, and able to come home in that third spot, so great run for him. A couple of cars still closing out their lap. Chris Taylor up on screen at the moment, just coming down through the S. I believe he's already finished. And Scott McFarlane in the Porsche closing out his run as well. And with that being said, we'll jump across now to the final race results and recap where everyone has finished off. Coming home first tonight, Jan Nosek taking the winner of round 5 here at Circuit of the Americas. Evan Leiberg in second position. Third was Lokic Goran. Fourth, Martin Crisp. Ty Flatland coming home fifth. Zen Bishop in sixth. Clint Smith taking the class win in GT3 and seventh outright. In his Mercedes, Joachim Logren in second and eighth outright. Jason Muskrat in the ninth position. Hudson McHale in third. Alain Day comes home in third in class and 11th overall. Martin Crozier in 12th. Bradley Hardwell in 13th. Chris Taylor 14th tonight. Mario Pasaka in 15th. Scotty McFarlane in 16th position. Zach Livengood home in 7th and 2 laps down. Daniel Rodrigo 9 laps down and actually not finishing the race tonight. Duarte Rosado unfortunately not finishing, and likewise Ryan Miller in our sole DPI. So that is our race results. It looks like we got Clint Smith standing by for an interview, class winner of the GT3. So we'll bring him in, and I'll hand that over to you, Brad.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, Clint. Brad in the booth here. Welcome. Another strong result for you, which we've been accustomed to seeing. But was quite interesting early in the race there as you came up onto the tail of the GTE cars. If you sort of want to run us through how that went for you and how the car handled out there today.
Yeah, g'day guys. Car was great tonight. So it was very cool conditions. So pretty much knew not to overdrive the car because unfortunately in the cooler conditions you can have a habit of just overdriving the car and burning the tires out way too soon. So when I was stuck behind those GTE cars for a bit there, I was kind of a bit worried in that, but I was just trying to play it safe and rolling off when I could, save some fuel, save the tires, and only make clean passes when I could. So I think there's one spot when one of the GTE guys was faster. I could tell by Joel Brill timing that he was quicker than me, so I just let him go because I just don't want to get caught up into their battles. Just they can race their race and I'll race my race.
Yeah, it seemed like sort of because obviously there was an incident at turn one with a couple of GTE cars there, so you kind of come up on those guys a lot earlier than expected, and then once you got in amongst them, sort of being able to build a gap to sort of 4 or 5 seconds to Lundgren, and you were a lot more confident heading into that traffic than he was from the looks of it. So just being able to build that buffer, but also I saw a couple of times where you were being a little bit patient and reserved because when you go offline here to try and make a pass, it's the dirty part of the track seems to be very dramatically affected here. You really notice that when you go offline. So yeah, kind of, is that something you were trying to be aware of when you were trying to make your way through there?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, this is one of those tracks that if you mess up one corner, even if you're just offline just that little bit, you lose bulk time. Like you could lose almost half a second to a second just from one corner, just because you're offline. Because obviously with the constant sweeping corners and things like that, you stuff up one corner, it's going to stuff up the next one, that's going to stuff up the next one, and it's just a chain reaction. So just playing it safe and sticking on the line, making sure I'm not losing too much time, and just like I said, Joel Rule timing, it's an awesome program. Anyone that doesn't run it, they should run it because you can easily just watch the gaps to the car behind and making sure you're maintaining that gap to the car behind, so you're not pushing too hard. So, and that's pretty much what I was doing until I got clean air. And once I got clean air, I just put my foot down and went for it. So,
Yeah, and just lastly, your impressions of this track. Like, do you enjoy COTA? It seems to be a pretty divisive track in the community. Some people really don't enjoy it. Others seem to quite enjoy the challenge of that first sector in particular. Is there any particular part of the track you like?
yeah, no. Well, firstly, a big thank you to the other GT3 cars coming out. I was a bit worried that I was only going to have a field maybe of myself and somebody else, and maybe only three cars because, as we all know, COTA is, like you said, one of the unfavorable tracks. I'm not too sure why because I love racing here, as you could tell tonight. All this track requires is a bit of practice and a bit of patience. It's not one of those tracks you can just fall to the floor, foot straight to the floor and just pretty much go. You need to be able to roll through the corners, stick to your lines, and you need to practice. So you can't just show up to COTA and expect to be on the pace. And unfortunately, a lot of people show up thinking they can be shown the pace right away. They're 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds slower, and they think there's something wrong with the track. When it's not that. You just need to practice. So I love this track. I have no issues with it.
No worries. Well, congratulations on the victory tonight. Next week we head to Silverstone, the new layout. Do we expect to see you there? And what are your thoughts heading into that race?
Definitely. I'll be here at Silverstone next week. So unfortunately, I missed the last two because of RC racing, interstate in New South Wales. So I couldn't make it, unfortunately. So I missed out on going for the three in a row. So, but it's still 3 wins from 3 starts in the Apex Racing broadcaster series. So, but yeah, no, I'll definitely be here next week, and I like the new Silverstone layout. So, yeah, I pretty much like any track. Cause yeah, give me a track, give me a car, and I'll drive on it.
No worries. And before we leave, is anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, well, firstly, again, thanks to Apex for broadcasting the night. Thanks to, like I said, the other GT3 guys for coming out and having a race. So it's good to see a fair few people out there. CS Esports, my own team. COTA Factory. Tonight, I'm not too sure if you guys noticed, but the new livery's on the car finally, and I think it looks absolutely sweet. I love it. So Virtual Racing School, job real timing, and Michael Smith Flooring. So yeah, those guys get it done for me. So thanks, guys.
No worries. We look forward to seeing you out there next week. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
So that was Clint Smith, our GT3 winner, and we've got Alan Day just popped into the box. We'll get Daniel to have a quick chat to him too.
Yeah, g'day, Alan. Congratulations, mate. Third in class again tonight. Another strong result for you out there. How was it out?
A little bit dicey at first. I just see up ahead some GTs got into a little bit of a collision at the start. I think Bishop got a little bit of a spin around at turn one, so he had to wait for everybody else to get by, almost having to settle behind all of us. But thankfully, he managed to stay ahead of us. But despite all of that, it's actually quite smooth actually. So I know that obviously it's a very difficult track, very very different to what we had last week with Road Atlanta. The car felt extremely good at the start, like the first 5 or so laps. But the tires just fell off very, very quickly. So once Joachim was able to get clear of the traffic after the stop, so just weren't able to keep up with him really.
Well, yeah, circuit's one of those tracks, especially with the nature of the corners being so flowing and the like. You really need a car that stays under you. Is there anything that you say? We spoke of it last week with going from Road Atlanta to this, something that we could have maybe taken across. Is there anything that in light of obviously how things have gone tonight, anything that you could potentially make a tweak to help get that car a little further planted underneath you?
I think the car and the setup is perfectly fine. I think it's just a matter of me just needing to learn not to push so hard through the corners. It's a very, very difficult thing to do around such a track like this because it's like it's a double-edged sword sort of thing. If you don't push hard enough through a corner, you're not going to be able to get enough speed going through the corner. But then at the same time, if you're pushing too hard through a corner, then you're going to wear out the tires quite a lot. So it's a matter of trying to find that middle length, which is a very, very hard thing to do for a track like this. So like you do have to try and decide what you want to be able to do, because if you lose too much time to the guys in front, then you're not going to catch any of that draft. Especially on the back straight, because on the back straight you've got such a long back straight, and see one of the main passing opportunities, a little bit of going up the long hill, going up to turn one as well. If you're not anywhere near there, you can still possibly try and make a dive bomb, as such, because of the nature of the racing line, but you don't want to be too far back. So it's one of them type of tracks that you do have to be like, I'm hearing myself on your microphone. Sorry.
No, I think we all get what you mean. Got to be very cautious on how you get around this circuit, and like I say, it is a bit of a double-edged sword around it. Next week we go to Silverstone, the new circuit. Is there anything you could potentially take out of this that might get you around there, or anything that you're looking for, especially on that circuit, where you might be able to gain an advantage in the car?
Like Silverstone is actually slightly similar, is in a way, but it's one of them sort of things where so certain corners around the track that are slightly similar. It's not quite as laid out to be like, you can take the racing line into a corner very differently from one lap to another. It's rather more of a, you can only take one racing line as such, but there's definitely room for opportunities to get to make a pass. So there's plenty of racing overtaking opportunities, quite a wide surface, and because of the fact that a lot of drivers are still learning the new Silverstone track because it's very different to the old one, I reckon there should be room to be able to get another great result exactly like today as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. If you're able to get up on the podium again, that's another fantastic effort for yourself there. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out?
Yeah, like the Team Brit team has been exactly stellar. Like the particular one week on the Saturday that we did the main Saturday race, like a lot of others did. The race didn't exactly go according to plan at the very start of the race, but we've all been able to keep each other's heads up. It's been a little bit of a difficult week for me, actually, away off the track, to be completely honest. So, like without the team, I actually wouldn't have had the motivation to do something like this. So, like a massive thanks to all the team, to Andrew, to James, to Paul as well, who's all watching me on the stream today, as well. Like a special thanks to the rest of the team as well.
No worries, mate. Well, again, congratulations on third tonight. Look forward to catching you out there at Silverstone next week, and see.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And that was Alan Day, third in class in the GTE field, and coming home with another strong result. We will hand it over quickly to Scott Newton, just behind the cameras, to go through an upcoming run through of the schedule for Apex for the following week. But before we do, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Just a bit of a heads up of what's coming up on Apex Racing TV and on the iRacing Esports Network for the next week. Later on tonight, on the iRacing Esports Network, we have the BSI MX5 Pro Series that'll be on at 2015 British Summertime at the moment, and that'll be broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network. So be sure to tune in for that one. Then on Wednesday we have the the Sim Racers World GT Championship at 8 p.m. British Summer Time as well. That's also broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network, and the Apex Racing League TCR Championship as well. That'll be on the Thursday at 8 p.m. British Summer Time as well. Those three championships broadcast on our iRacing Esports Network. On the Friday, we've got the official IndyCar Road Series that'll be broadcasted here on the Apex Racing TV channel. That'll be on Friday at 8 p.m. GMT as usual, and then on the Sunday, later on in the Saturday, also on Apex Racing TV, we've got the official Formula Renault 3.5 Championship. That's also at 8 p.m. GMT as well. On the Sunday, we head to Spa for the fifth round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. That'll be around Circuit Spa-Francorchamps for 45 minutes of action. That'll be at 9:45 a.m. GMT or 20:45 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And then on the Monday, we've got the World GT Championship. That'll be on the iRacing Esports Network at 8:10 p.m. on the Monday, and then we'll be back on the Tuesday, same time, after the Australian Eastern Daylight Time has been in effect since Sunday just gone. So that heads the time slot change for the iRacing official IMSA Sportscar Championship, moving to the 8:45 GMT time slot as well. So lots of action coming up, both on the iRacing Esports Network and both on Apex Racing TV.
Fantastic. And for all of us here at Apex, I'd like to thank you again for tuning in and watching the round 5 of the IMSA Broadcast Championship. My name is Daniel Leet. I'd like to thank Brad Klink for being in the booth alongside me and Scott Newton for being behind the cameras. But we will all catch you for another upcoming broadcast here on Apex TV. Good night.